Hey everyone, I'm Allison Morris. You are watching NBC News Now. We have breaking news. NBC News confirming that Israel's security cabinet has voted for a ceasefire ending 11 days of fighting. Let's bring in NBC News correspondent Aaron McLaughlin in Tel Aviv. Aaron, what do you know about this ceasefire agreement?
Hey, Allison. Well, the Israeli Security Cabinet met for some 3 hours this evening. Out of that meeting, issuing a statement saying that this was a unanimous decision, that they have accepted, quote, the Egyptian initiative for a bilateral ceasefire, saying that there's no timing at the moment for that ceasefire to take effect, simply saying that it will, quote, take effect at a later day. Now, this is the product of negotiations that have been going on for days now, mediated by Egypt. Important to remember that Hamas and Israel do not speak to each other. So the Egyptians playing a critical role in all of this, those negotiations proving fruitful tonight. We've been seeing media reports and speculation throughout the day building up to this announcement, but finally ending in the statement from the Israeli Security Council confirming that a ceasefire will take effect. Timing still TBD. Allison?
Aaron, I know this is breaking news, just breaking, so it hasn't been going on for all that long. Is there any sense from where you are there in Tel Aviv that people are aware that this has happened, that anything has changed? Do you feel some sort of sense that things in the air are different now that they have reached an agreement?
Well, we are still waiting for word from Hamas confirming that they have, in fact, agreed to the ceasefire. There's media reports circulating that they have and that the ceasefire will begin at 2 a.m. But we are still working to confirm that. We're also expecting an announcement from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who's expected to release a video announcement later today. As for the fighting, there was a lull in fighting for about an hour and a half as the Security Cabinet was meeting. In the minutes following this announcement from the Security Cabinet, there has been a resumption of rocket fire from Gaza into Israel. We are seeing those reports. No word on Israel resuming any sort of bombardment that had been happening. Pretty much an escalation throughout the day, building up to the actual Security Cabinet meeting.
Aaron, as you were saying before, no real timeline laid out just yet, still waiting for those pieces to fall into place?
Yeah, that is right. Again, there are media reports out there that Hamas has agreed to a ceasefire time of 2 in the morning, but we have yet to receive confirmation from either Hamas confirming those reports or the Israelis. The Israelis very explicitly in their statement saying that the timing of the ceasefire is still being determined.
All right, Aaron McLaughlin, can't thank you enough for jumping in front of a camera to bring us this breaking news and for all of your reporting throughout the fighting. Thank you so very much.
Thanks.
NBC News White House correspondent Mike Memoli joining me now. Mike, I have to ask, any reaction from the White House yet to the breaking news, the ceasefire announcement from Israel?
Not yet, Allison. Obviously, these are very early moments with the Israeli cabinet having just come to that decision. And the White House is doing something we really haven't seen much this year. There's actually a reception happening after what we just saw about an hour ago, which was the president signing into law that Asian COVID hate crimes related measure. There was a big crowd, a bipartisan crowd at the White House. So the president likely going to be spending some time with those and some of the other guests who were invited. But I would expect the White House certainly to react, and the president would issue a statement tonight regarding the ceasefire. And I expect that statement would do two things. One, it would be rather restrained, right? This is a president who knows how fragile these ceasefires could be. And so even as he'd welcome it, he would certainly not want to go too far in celebrating it because of how quickly these things can change. But I will also suggest that the White House would use this as sort of a valedictory moment for the strategy that we've seen play out over the course of this week. You mentioned it with Garrett. There's been a lot of criticism, a lot of pressure from Capitol Hill on this White House to take a stronger line to get to a ceasefire. And all along, this is a White House, much like the campaign before it, that once it sets about a strategy for achieving a result, sticks to it even in the face of criticism. And that strategy has been one of very quiet, very private, behind the scenes negotiations, not negotiating in public. One lawmaker said to me, we're used to 4 years in which the last last president did all of his diplomacy on Twitter. This is a White House that has had a number of calls, including the president, the vice president, with world leaders, not reading out too much more of those details. And so if and when this White House does react, I think they'll want to sort of mark the moment to say, despite all the criticism, we have gotten to the result that everyone was looking for.
In the House passing a nearly $2 billion bill to beef up security at the Capitol today. Let's get to NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Garrett Hake. Garrett, that legislation barely passed in the House. What's in this bill, and does it have a shot at all in the Senate?
This was a squeaker in the House, a $2 billion bill that includes several big pots of money, more than $500 million to reimburse the National Guard, who've been here for the last 5.5 months, protecting those of us who work up here, hundreds of millions of dollars to harden the Capitol complex itself. There's money for body cameras for Capitol Police. There's money for training, just about everything you can think of that grew out of the January 6th insurrection. Now, the reason it squeaked narrowly through in the House is because of one of the things that's not in here. Anything holistic that deals with white supremacy or militia groups, the groups that were behind the attack. You had several progressive members today either vote no or vote present, essentially staying out of this entire discussion. On the Senate side, it has a different problem. There are senators, including some Democrats, who say, look, we are reviewing everything that happened on January 6th in multiple different committees. None of them have released their reports yet. Let's at least find out everything that we think we need to know about what happened here before we start spending this kind of money. So tough sledding in the Senate for this particular bill, although this money is needed. It will get spent. It's just a question of when and in what format, I think.
Garrett, 35 House Republicans broke with their party to vote for the January 6th commission last night. What kind of reaction is that getting on the Hill today?
I asked both party leaders about this today, Kevin McCarthy and Speaker Pelosi. Kevin McCarthy mostly blew me off, essentially saying this is up to individual members. I should ask them why they did this. I had one member say, look, if this commission is going to happen, or if an investigation into January 6th is going to happen, he'd rather have an independent commission do it than a committee appointed by Speaker Pelosi or Adam Schiff or whomever the case may be. Speaker Pelosi, for her part, well, she cheered on those Republicans who voted for the commission. Here's what she told me.
It is interesting to see 35 members coming forth. I'm very proud of them. And it was a recognition that this was a bipartisan product, negotiated in good faith.
So you hear the Speaker encouraging that vote on the House side, applauding Republicans. She also urged them, in an answer to one of my questions, to take their party back, that it should be voters or members like those 35 who voted for, as she called it, truth and justice, who are defining what the Republican Party is about, not those who are trying to whitewash the events of January 6th.
Garrett, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer officially putting that commission on the Senate's agenda. Here's his message to the GOP.
The Republican leader who called the January 6th attack a disgrace, who said he believed there was no question Donald Trump was morally responsible for the attacks, now finds this whole endeavor unnecessary. Let me be very clear to my Republican colleagues. There is no good justification for opposing the commission.
Garrett, Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has made it clear that he is against the commission. So what is the Democrats' plan if Senate Republicans stick with him on this one?
Well, I think what we're going to see is this commission on the floor of the Senate, possibly as early as next week. And as it looks like right now, it'll get filibustered. The first time that the filibuster has actually been used, or would actually be used in this case, to block a piece of legislation in the Biden presidency. It's hard to find the votes for this bill in the Senate. Several of the Republicans who even voted for conviction of Donald Trump in the last impeachment trial, like Richard Burr of North Carolina, said today they don't think this commission is necessary. If they do block it, then things get kicked back over to the House. That's where I think we'll see, as I alluded to earlier, Speaker Pelosi setting up her own committee investigation, either in an existing committee or creating a special select committee like what Republicans did to investigate Benghazi. If that's the case, Democrats would control the entire process. That's one of the reasons you've heard some Republicans say, if this is going to happen anyway, let's at least do it in a way in which we have some say. That may go out the window if the Senate blocks this.
Garrett, you mentioned Speaker Pelosi was proud of the 35 House Republicans who voted for the January 6th commission. She also says she's pretty happy about the bipartisan effort on police reform. What's the latest on that legislation?
This has been a really interesting one to follow. It is a very tough nut to crack. There are 3 negotiators who know what's going on: Tim Scott, Cory Booker, Karen Bass, and they've been committed to not leaking out their discussions, what the specific details are on their proposals, how far along they are, where the stumbling blocks are, including even Tim Scott saying today, when it was discussed that the 3 negotiators might go to the White House to meet with the president, Scott said, "I like the people who I'm talking to right now. I think this is a good negotiation." That could mean one of 2 things. That could mean that this is in trouble, but as I look at it and talk to the aides involved, it seems as though everyone involved knows that what they're dealing with is very sensitive, and they don't want to start leaking components of it, leaking parts of a deal until they have an agreement on everything. I think that's the direction this is going, but the timeline the White House wanted, an agreement, a bill by the 25th of May, the anniversary of George Floyd's death, I can pretty confidently say that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Garrett, I know this is just breaking news. Just wondering if you're seeing any or hearing any reaction on Capitol Hill. NBC News has confirmed that there has been a ceasefire agreement reached in the Middle East. I know that was a big conversation on Capitol Hill, the Democrats putting pressure on President Biden to do something here. Are you hearing ripplings of that throughout Capitol Hill or not yet?
Both chambers have gone home for the weekend already. They're not really big into Fridays, Allison.
Wow.
So, yeah, I think reaction, if it comes, will be coming on Twitter. And frankly, I suspect both parties will welcome this news. If the ceasefire was on strong terms for the Israelis, I think we'll hear Republican support for it. The fact that it's happening at all should bring Democratic support as well.
Garrett, I should have worked in Congress. Not big on Fridays. There you go. Garrett Hake on Capitol Hill. Thank you, sir.
Take care.
It's been a busy day of breaking news, but we would never forget about NBC News Now correspondent Simone Boyce. She's got the headlines for us from NBCnews.com. Simone, great to see you.
Hey, Allison, you too. All right, let's start in Tennessee. That's where Governor Bill Lee is signing legislation banning gender-confirming treatment for young minors. So Tennessee is the second state after Arkansas to enact such a ban. It's the third bill Governor Lee signed over the past week targeting transgender people. Well, the FBI is investigating the 2017 death of an Asian-American teen as a possible hate crime. 17-year-old Maggie Long was purposefully set on fire and burned alive in her family's Colorado home. Her death was ruled a homicide and 3 men were suspected, but there haven't been any arrests. And attorneys and relatives of 16-year-old Michaela Miller are pushing back on the medical examiner's ruling that she died last month by suicide. During a teleconference, her mother, among others, demanded a transparent investigation and announced civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump will be representing Miller's relatives. Well, a hiker missing for 5 days in the Angeles National Forest found alive. Authorities found George Null in a remote area just outside of the city of Los Angeles. Now, they didn't specify how he got lost, but his sister says he's an experienced hiker who might have just lost his way because trail markers were burned off by the Bobcat fire last year. And Allison, this one is for you. The New York Yankees' Corey Kluber pitching a no-hitter last night against the Texas Rangers. Now, this is the second no-hitter in a row for the MLB. Detroit's Spencer Turnbull had his turn the night before against Seattle. And this is actually the first time the league has had no-hitters on consecutive days since 1969. But you already knew all this.
Simone, I have a confession to make. I was catching up with an old girlfriend of mine last night. We are both huge Yankees fans. We talked for 2.5 hours and missed the entire thing.
Facepalm.
100. So I needed you to catch me up. Thanks, Simone. Texas Governor Greg Abbott signing a fetal heartbeat abortion ban into law. It's one of the most restrictive measures in the country. NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky has more from Dallas.
Yeah, Allison, the debate over abortion rights only ratcheting up. The Supreme Court deciding to hear a case out of Mississippi, and at least a dozen states now passing more restrictive measures. Here in Texas, the new law now makes it the biggest state with the so-called heartbeat ban abortion law. Advocates say it'll save countless lives, but critics call it unconstitutional, in addition to a public health threat. Texas taking center stage in the debate over abortion rights, passing a law potentially impacting millions of women.
The Texas heartbeat bill is now law in the Lone Star State.
Governor Greg Abbott signing a bill Wednesday, banning abortions in most cases where a fetal heartbeat is detected, potentially as early as 6 weeks into pregnancy, before many women even know they're pregnant.
In Texas, we work to save those lives.
Similar heartbeat bans passed by other states have so far failed to hold up in court. The Texas bill is unique, permitting almost anyone to sue any person or provider who may have helped someone get an abortion after the limit.
These kinds of restrictions don't do anything to reduce the need for abortion. They're just blocking people from getting safe abortion.
Amy Hagstrom Miller of the Whole Women's Health Alliance manages multiple Texas clinics. She says the law makes private citizens potential enforcers.
Where does this put Texas on the spectrum as far as rights go in our country?
The Texas outcomes when it comes to reproductive health are abysmal. And this would be extreme.
A 2017 study found 96% of Texas counties had no clinics that provided abortions. 43% of Texas women, however, lived in those counties. The Texas law, which would go into effect September 1st, isn't the only high-profile legislation. The Supreme Court announced it would hear a Mississippi case challenging Roe v. Wade that bans abortions after 15 weeks.
States are in open defiance of Supreme Court precedent in the hope that this newly constituted Supreme Court is going to reverse Roe versus Wade. And that's why we see them passing blatantly unconstitutional laws.
And again, here in Texas, that law is set to go into effect on September 1st. As for that Supreme Court case, the court says they plan on hearing it later this fall, with a decision expected sometime next spring.
About 25% of active duty women in the military are victims of sexual harassment, according to the advocacy group Protect Our Defenders. But there's a bipartisan bill in Congress fighting to change that. Republican Senator Joni Ernst and Democratic Senator Kirsten Gillibrand want to overhaul how the military handles sexual assault cases. They talked with NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Leanne Caldwell about their plan.
The murder last year of Specialist Vanessa Guillen at Fort Hood in Texas revealed the dark depths of sexual assault while in uniform.
After the deaths of Vanessa Guillen, they investigated and they found the command climate was so toxic that it was permissive for sexual assault and sexual harassment.
A 136-page military review also found significant underreporting of sexual assault, fear of retaliation, and many leaving the Army at the earliest opportunity. Fort Hood is not an outlier. About 1 in 4 active duty women have been sexually harassed, and a fifth of those have also been sexually assaulted, according to the advocacy group Protect Our Defenders. The conviction rate was even worse, less than 1% in 2020. Republican Senator Joni Ernst and Democratic Senator Kirsten Gillibrand agree on the pervasiveness of the problem.
They deserve a criminal justice system worthy of their sacrifice.
But for years did not agree on the solution. The stalemate? Who should investigate sexual assault? A soldier's commander or an independent prosecutor? Ernst knows the importance of a military power structure. She served as a combat commander during Operation Iraqi Freedom. She is also too familiar with sexual assault.
I am a survivor before I entered the military. So I was sexually assaulted while I was in college, and it was a very toxic relationship.
Ernst admits that after incremental attempts to fix the problem, little has changed. The statistics didn't change, and service members that spoke up faced retaliation.
I have been very torn about this, and I have been very open about it.
After years of insisting that the chain of command must address sexual assault within the unit,
those who retaliate against individuals should be punished to the full extent of the law.
Senator Ernst did something not often seen in Washington. She changed her mind. Because of Fort Hood, she realized that commanders don't have the tools, time, nor training to address sexual assault. She now says commanders cannot be responsible for the investigation. It needs highly trained independent prosecutors. That's a key part of the compromise.
Does it need to be a culture shift
in the military. Is that part of the solution?
Very much so. And one of the ideas we have is that if we start to prosecute more of these cases and more end in conviction, it just sends a very clear signal that these crimes aren't being tolerated, that we actually will prosecute you and you will go to jail. That, I think, sends the clearest message, and it's the quickest way to change the culture.
The agreement also creates extensive training for soldiers, an attempt to stop sexual assault before it happens. And it provides funding to train those expert prosecutors.
And so we need a far more trained and professionalized set of attorneys to do this work effectively.
And this bill does that.
And this bill does that.
Mm-hmm. And in a major development, the Pentagon is signaling it will back reforms.
These are assaults. These are blue-on-blue assaults. It cannot stand. We have lost the trust and confidence of those subordinates in our ability to deal with sexual assault. So we need to make a change.
But obstacles still exist. The top 2 senators on the Armed Services Committee don't support it. Neither do a handful of Republican senators, insisting military leaders are the best watch over their command.
Military commanders have awesome responsibility and almost absolute liability.
Despite the opponents, this is a breakthrough. 61 senators have signed on, enough to pass in the Senate should it get a vote.
You have a daughter at West Point. You have 2 sons. Are you comfortable sending your children into the military, given the statistics on sexual assault that are currently in the military?
I am very comfortable doing that, obviously, and I'm very proud of my daughter. And this is an area, because of my own personal experiences, that I have been open with my daughter. So whether it's sexual assault, domestic violence, those are tough conversations to have. But I do feel that she has benefited from those experiences. And I do recommend the military for any young man or woman that desires to serve their nation. But it's up to folks like Senator Gillibrand and I to make sure that we are providing a safe place for our members.
It is time for The Bottom Line, our daily look at what's going on in the business world and beyond. Weekly jobless claims dropping to a new pandemic low. 444,000 Americans filed for first-time unemployment benefits last week, but continuing claims edged higher. They're at 3.75 million. Now, those are people who have been collecting unemployment for 2 weeks or more, and that number runs a week behind. So what do both of those numbers mean? For starters, they gave the markets a pretty nice boost today, the Dow closing up 188 points. All right, so let's put these claims in perspective. 444,000 new people filed for unemployment the week ending May 5th, 2021. That same week a year ago, 2020, more than 2.3 million people filed. So what does this tell us about our economic recovery? In the very simplest terms, it is happening. Americans are getting vaccinated. The economy is steadily opening back up. States across the country are hiring, but we still need to see more jobs. And we probably will. You should expect more hiring over the summer as vaccination numbers go up and COVID restrictions drop. But keep watching that continuing claims number. That's the number that will let us know if people are going back to work or might be choosing to stay on the sidelines. Stay tuned. Backseat driving, literally from the backseat. Tesla owners testing the limits of their car's autopilot technology, posting their hacks all over social media, and they're sparking some new safety concerns. Let's bring in Rebecca Elliott. She's the technology and autos reporter for the Wall Street Journal. Rebecca, as you remind us in your article today in the Journal, and as Tesla's demo video shows, drivers are supposed to be in the driver's seat with their hands engaged with the wheel to use this driver assistance system. So tell us more about these social media videos and the concerns they're raising.
That's right. So Tesla has a driver assistance system that's designed to help make driving safer by assisting with tasks such as steering or maintaining appropriate distance from other vehicles. The company instructs drivers to, as you said, keep their hands on the wheel. But for years now, some users have been uploading videos of themselves operating their vehicles, essentially testing the limits. And in some cases, these videos appear to show vehicles operating without anybody in the driver's seat. in others, people try to circumvent Tesla's monitoring system by, for example, attaching a weight to the steering wheel to make the vehicle think that somebody's hands are on the wheel.
So we're looking right now at Tesla's video of what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to be in the driver's seat there, right in front of the steering wheel. You're saying there are people on social media who are hanging out in the back seat, not in that seat at all. What are Elon Musk and Tesla saying about all this? Are they responding?
Neither Tesla nor Elon Musk responded to our request for comment, but Tesla has said repeatedly that its technology and driving with it engaged is safer than doing so without it.
I understand from your article that the California Department of Motor Vehicles is reviewing whether Tesla violated state regulations. What is the specific issue there that they're looking into?
Right. So the California Department of Motor Vehicles is reviewing whether Tesla may have violated a state regulation that bars companies from falsely advertising their vehicles as autonomous. The agency said that a violation of that regulation could result in, for example, an officer removing a vehicle from a public road.
People, please keep your hands on the wheel. At least stay in the driver's seat for now. Rebecca, thanks so much for coming on to talk through your reporting with us.
Thanks for having me.
It's been almost a year since George Floyd's death. Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer who killed Floyd, now convicted of murder. But what's actually changed in the year since George Floyd died? NBC News correspondent Tremaine Lee tackles that question in his special, Can You Hear Us Now? 1 year later, it's on NBC News Now tonight. Tremaine, we are looking forward to that special indeed. So give us a preview, if you don't mind. What did your guests say about whether we have seen significant change in the last year? What is their progress report for America?
Thanks so much for having me, Allison. I had this stellar panel of thinkers and activists and doers and people who engage in this work. And almost all of them said there is an opportunity here to push reform forward, to make big changes, to make America, closer, more closely resemble what it says it is. But they also said that as much has changed, so much has remained the same. Even though there have been efforts to, chip away at systemic racism, there's still a long way to go. Let's take a listen.
We saw the largest demonstrations last year on the planet for civil rights. And whether it was in the United States, in every state, or whether it was on the European continent, or whether it was in Australia, or whether it was in South America, on the African continent, or in Canada, many of them, or most of them, had signs that say Black Lives Matter. That's a consciousness awakening that we had not seen prior to that point. So my point is, I believe that positively we're going to continue to make progress. We have no choice, quite frankly.
Amanda, we've seen this global movement, right? We've seen it be cross-racial, but it's also cross-generational, right? And we've seen a generation of young black folks, many who were just kids when Trayvon Martin was killed, who've been raised with the constant specter of highly publicized police and vigilante killings. They've marched, they've taken to social media, but do you think America is a racist country, too racist to ever be fundamentally changed? That's a big one. That's a big one now.
It's a big one. I mean, America is absolutely a racist country. It was founded on racism. So in order for that to change, the foundation has to change. And I wholeheartedly believe that. I think that understandably, there are people who don't want to say that based on their positions. There are people who don't want to say that based on their fear of, expressing hopelessness, et cetera. But at the end of the day, this country was built at a time when slavery was acceptable to many of the founding fathers and to individuals who were a part of the changing of this nation to America. And we are literally living in a country where slavery was written into law.
Allison, therein lies the great tension. Those who have to be optimistic and have to be hopeful in order to even believe that change is possible, right? On the other hand, the roots of this country go back 400 years when it comes to our issues with race. Fundamentally, that original sin of slavery kind of taints our culture and society and every institution. But folks are, again, grappling in that space of tension.
Tremaine, Blaine Alexander just talked to us about Ronald Greene, a black man who died in police custody in Louisiana back in 2019. We are only just now seeing body cam video of Greene's arrest and his last moments alive. You spoke with Lee Merritt, the Greene family attorney. What did he say about whether video evidence is necessary to get a murder conviction like we saw with Derek Chauvin in George Floyd's death?
That's right. You know, the video that has been leaked out the last couple of days, or released over the last couple of days, have been disturbing and troubling, to say the least. And I did ask Lee Merritt just that. I said, you know, this is obviously horrendous and it's obviously inhumane, but are these videos necessary to push the ball forward in terms of actually getting justice? And what he said in some ways was yes, but it's much deeper than just the release of the video. It's the circumstances that lead to this kind of death in the first place. But let's take a listen.
The question is now, as a nation, how do we respond to it? Do we demand justice for Ronald Greene, of course, but do we demand also a restructuring of that entire system that facilitates this kind of result over and over and over again?
How does the nation respond? And that's what we're tackling tonight on Can You Hear Us Now, 1 year later. A year after George Floyd's death sparked this really a global movement. Where do things stand now? And as a nation, where do we, find the strength, the gumption to move forward and be better? And that's the big question. How can we be better?
Tremaine, you've been having really important conversations all year long. We are looking forward to the special tonight. Thanks for giving us a glimpse of it.
Thank you.
And you can catch Tremaine's full special, Can You Hear Us Now, 1 year later, with guests Amanda Seales, Lee Merritt, Martin Luther King III, and more. That's tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on NBC News Now. Newly released police body cam footage shows the deadly arrest of a black man in Louisiana back in 2019. Ronald Greene's family says state troopers initially told them he died in a crash during a high-speed chase after failing to stop for a traffic violation. But body cam footage obtained by the Associated Press shows police stunning, punching, and dragging Greene. We want to warn you, this video is pretty disturbing to watch.
I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm your brother. I'm scared.
We should note the AP says all of the body cameras were not on, so it is hard to see exactly what was happening at all times. Let's go to NBC News correspondent Blaine Alexander. Blaine, the Associated Press obtained 46 minutes of footage from that encounter. What else does it show? And I have to ask, why are we only seeing it now, 2 years after Greene's death?
Allison, it's a question that a lot of people are asking, perhaps most of all the family. One thing that we do have to note is how this video was released in the first place. And we have to mention that it wasn't done through official channels. This wasn't Louisiana State Police putting this video out. The Associated Press obtained this video, which they later released, through some sort of unofficial channel. Somebody essentially gave it to the Associated Press, to the point that Louisiana State Police, in a statement, made it clear that they did not authorize the release of this video and said that they were concerned that it would possibly undermine the investigation. So we do have that known. But, in speaking with the attorney for the family, Attorney Lee Merritt, who's representing the Greene family, he told me that they have been working for quite some time now to get that full video, to obtain that full video. They filed FOIA requests. They met with the governor of Louisiana, but they've repeatedly been denied. So, of course, seeing this video, very difficult for them now. Allison.
Blaine, how is Ronald Greene's family reacting? What have you heard from them?
Sure. So first, I'll start with a conversation that I had with Merritt, the family attorney. Of course, they're talking about the fact that it is difficult. They say that, initially the family is saying that they believe that this was a cover up. Initially, they were told, they say that they were told by law enforcement that he died from injuries sustained after a car crash after the end of that chase. They say seeing that video, of course, gives them a greater insight into what happened that night, at least partially. So it's gotten them very increasingly upset after watching that. When I spoke with Merritt, he says that he believes that there will be a grand jury sometime soon, and they expect to see federal charges in this case. But here's a little bit of that interview earlier from NBC. Take a look.
It's probably one of the most disturbing videos that I've seen of police brutality. It invokes the image of what you might imagine slave catchers look when hunting down a runaway slave.
And furthermore, Greene's mother told our Miguel Almaguer that it was just very difficult to watch those final moments of her son's life, especially considering that this happened now 2 years ago, Allison, and now this video is just now coming out.
No doubt. So what are Louisiana State Police saying about this footage now and about the delay here?
They're not saying very much. They're citing the fact that this is an ongoing investigation, so really not commenting extensively beyond mentioning that, again, this is not authorized release of the video. But I do have to tell you a little bit about the officers that were involved that night, the troopers who were involved that night. One of them has since died, has since passed away. He died last year in a single car crash. Incidentally, that car crash happened just a few hours after he learned that he was going to be terminated, be fired for his role in the arrest that night. The other two, at least two others, are still employed by Louisiana State Police. One of those officers, however, is currently on administrative leave because he was charged with excessive force in a different case, a completely separate case, Allison.
All right, Blaine Alexander, it's disturbing video to watch. I know you mentioned the investigations are still underway. We'll see what happens here. Thank you. Business owners in Chicago frustrated and confused by the new CDC mask guidance and now the city's guidance that masks aren't required but are strongly advised. So should business owners require masks? Should they not? How do they know if their customers are vaccinated? It's a lot to worry about. NBC News correspondent Megan Fitzgerald caught up with some of them.
Well, Allison, it was on Monday that Chicago's mayor, Lori Lightfoot, was on MSNBC and said that she wanted more clarification around the CDC's new mask guidelines. It was the next day that we heard from the city's top doctor saying that while they are strongly encouraging fully vaccinated people to wear masks indoors, it's not something that they're requiring. Now, keep in mind, only 38% of Chicagoans are fully vaccinated. About 48% have gotten at least one shot. But the confusion and the frustration here is certainly among business owners who we've spoken to, many of them saying that the onus is now on them to decide whether or not they have mask mandates in place. And if they choose to do so, now it's on them to enforce it. Take a listen to what one bar owner had to say.
It means I'm the police. Per se, I'm the mask police. I have to police the people when they come through the door. I have to police them when they get up from their table to go to the restroom. I have to police, make sure my staff are doing it. And it's a certain level, and that we're being told to ask people if they're vaccinated. That's kind of crossing over people's privacy policies. Some people do not want to disclose it because otherwise it becomes a political conversation before you know it. Why aren't you vaccinated? Why are you vaccinated? And it's a private thing for some people.
Now, we know the last 14 months have been incredibly challenging for many businesses, having to close their doors or having to limit capacity. So Eamon Vaughn, who you just heard from there, the bar owner, he says this is the recovery phase for them. The last thing they want to do is alienate customers, make customers angry because they have a mask mandate or lack thereof.
Google searches about masks spiking online. No big surprise there. We're all confused about what to do now that the CDC says fully vaccinated people don't need to wear masks, but some cities and states haven't exactly changed their rules. So we're bringing in NBC News investigative and consumer correspondent Vicky Nguyen to help us with answers to the most Googled questions. Vicky, I'm so excited you're here because it's not just the folks out there Googling. We all have these questions. All right. So the number one, parents want to know, do kids still need to wear masks?
Okay, the short answer, Allison, and it is good to see you. It's been a while. The short answer is yes.
You too.
Because the CDC guidance hasn't changed at all for unvaccinated people. And that includes kids, because a lot of kids, obviously under 12, are not eligible to get the vaccine. But I will say this. We also talked to an epidemiologist from Johns Hopkins University, Jennifer Nuzzo. She's also a mom of preschool-age kids, and she gave us a reality check. She said, you know what? Based on everything that we know over the past 15 months and the data that shows the risk of getting COVID-19 when you're outside is so tiny, she believes in allowing kids to have mask breaks when they are outside. That means if they're at recess or they're at camp or they're just walking around the park with you, it's okay to take their masks off. Now, that is not what the CDC's official recommendation and guidance is, but here's a real-world epidemiologist talking about what she does, and that is the advice that I have gotten from other doctors as well, because kids, it's summer, and they need a chance to run around and breathe fresh air, and because the risk to them is so low, when you're outside, it's okay to take the mask off.
All right, so Vicky, we will check that one off the list, and that is pretty reasonable. Kids should still have masks, but outdoor mask breaks are advisable. That's a good advice from a medical expert. How about wearing masks indoors? Searches on that topic up 350% this week. It all depends on where you live. Help us navigate this one.
So the CDC is saying if you are fully vaccinated, you can ditch this bye-bye. When you're inside, when you're outside, you don't need to wear your mask anymore. Just remember that local guidance will trump CDC guidance. So if you're walking into a store, a restaurant, an office building, like where we work, and they say, you know what, we need you to put your mask on, then you got to do it. So you should keep your mask with you. You should still carry it around, even if you are fully vaccinated. And of course, if you are unvaccinated, the recommendation is still to watch your distance and to wear your mask. At the end of the day, this is all about a personal risk calculation. And for people who are fully vaxxed, the risk goes way down, which is why people should really seriously consider being vaccinated.
Vicky, I feel like masks have become the new cute wristlet. You see everybody out there with their mask kind of hanging on their arm just in case they need it. If they go into a store, if they go into a restaurant, you want to be safe, you're accessorized, right? All right, this next one is my favorite. Yep. I have been saying this nonstop on air, but it's because it's true. All I want to do is hug my best friend when I see her. When you see someone you love and you are both vaccinated, can you hug?
Once again, yes, when you're fully vaccinated, you can go right back to hugging. Dr. Nuzzo, who we talked about earlier, says, you know what, even if you're not vaccinated, you have a mask on, a short hug is totally fine. She is over handshakes, though. She thinks that should go the way of the dinosaur. No more handshakes because that spreads so many other types of viruses besides corona. But the hug, she's on board with, and we're hearing that certainly for fully vaccinated people, go right ahead.
Oh, great advice, Vicky. You said it. It's been a little while since we've seen you. We've seen you in stories, but you haven't been live with us in a little bit. Great to see you. And thanks for clearing up all those questions we have.
Always good to be with you, Allison.
Businesses across the country reopening and relaxing their COVID restrictions, but top health officials say we might be misinterpreting the CDC's latest guidance. NBC News correspondent Gabe Gutierrez explains from New York.
Allison, as you know, New York City restaurants can get pretty cramped. Many of them have installed outdoor seating setups, some of them very elaborate. Don't expect them to go away anytime soon. They've also installed glass barriers inside to keep people protected from getting infected. That will probably stay for a while. And here and across the country, despite the lifting of many COVID restrictions, many businesses are adjusting to the changes slowly. Mounting signs of a long-awaited return to normal.
It's wonderful. I've been waiting to take it off.
As COVID cases and deaths continue to plunge nationwide, and with nearly half of all Americans now having received at least one shot, more states are lifting mask and social distancing mandates for those fully vaccinated.
It's the start of a new era.
In once hard-hit New York, a milestone reopening Wednesday. Nearby Connecticut and New Jersey also loosening most restrictions.
I just think it's great to be out and about again.
Still, across the country, the CDC's updated guidance is being interpreted very differently.
You're still wearing your mask, though. Why?
Because I feel that I should.
Prompting this explanation.
So I think people are misinterpreting, thinking that this is a removal of a mask mandate for everyone. It's not. It's an assurance to those who are vaccinated that they can feel safe, be they outdoors or indoors.
More states are also now offering incentives to get more people vaccinated.
First Lady Tammy Murphy and I are putting our own skin in the game.
In New Jersey, dinner with the governor and first lady, free admission to state parks, and free wine. Elsewhere, free beer, savings bonds, even baseball tickets. But with no official guidance on how to check for proof of vaccination.
How do you know who is vaccinated and who is not vaccinated?
People are on the honor system, and when you're on the honor system, you're not necessarily honest.
Many businesses are cautious. At Westway Diner in Manhattan, Pete Daphnos is not scrapping his indoor mask mandate just yet.
Because we want to feel that all our customers are just comfortable to be inside.
And as for proof of vaccination, Allison, New York State is using a vaccine passport of sorts called the Excelsior Pass for your phone, but it's being used for many sporting events. Still, many restaurants and businesses we've spoken with, small businesses, say that they don't plan on using that anytime soon.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.